Captain Marcus Chen stared at the screen in front of him. Space looked empty, but he knew better. His ship, the Persistence, moved slowly through the asteroid field. The old mining vessel creaked and groaned as it flew between the floating rocks. "Captain, we should turn back," said his engineer, Sarah. She looked worried as she checked the readings on her screen. "This area is too close to Vorthak space. If they find us here—" Marcus nodded but did not change course. The human colonies needed rare metals badly. Without them, their growing settlements would fail. The Persistence was one of only 6 ships brave enough to mine in these dangerous areas. "Just a little further," Marcus said. "The scanners show good mineral deposits ahead." His crew of 6 had been together for 3 years. They trusted him, but he could see the fear in their eyes. The Vorthak Empire was known for taking prisoners as slaves. No human ship that met them ever came back. Tom, the communications officer, suddenly looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress signal." Marcus walked over to Tom's station. "What kind of signal?" "It's not human," Tom said, his fingers moving quickly over the controls. "The pattern is strange. I've never seen anything like it." Sarah shook her head. "Captain, we can't help. We need to get out of here before the Vorthaks show up." Marcus studied the signal on the screen. Something about it seemed urgent, desperate. He had spent 10 years in space, and he had learned to trust his feelings. "Where is it coming from?" he asked Tom. "About 2 kilometers ahead, behind that large asteroid." Marcus made his decision. "Change course. Let's take a look." "Captain, this is not wise," said his second officer, James. "We don't know what we'll find." "Maybe someone needs our help," Marcus replied. "We're humans. We don't leave people behind." The Persistence moved around the large asteroid. On the other side, they found a ship unlike anything they had ever seen. It looked like it was made of crystal and metal mixed together. Beautiful blue and silver lights moved along its surface like water. "By the stars," whispered Sarah. "What is that?" The ship was caught between 2 large pieces of asteroid debris. More rocks were falling around it. Each hit made the beautiful lights flicker and fade. "It's Keltharian," said Tom, checking his database. "I recognize the design from the old files. They're one of the oldest species in this part of the galaxy." Marcus had heard of the Keltharians. They were proud and ancient. Most humans had never met one. They kept to themselves and rarely helped other species. "The ship is badly damaged," reported Sarah. "Life support is failing. Whoever is inside won't last much longer." Marcus walked to the front window and looked at the beautiful ship. It was clearly expensive, maybe even royal. The person inside was probably important. "We have to help," he said. "Captain, the Keltharians don't like us," James argued. "They think humans are too young and wild. They won't thank us for this." "I don't care about thanks," Marcus replied. "Get the rescue suits ready." The crew worked quickly to prepare for the rescue mission. Marcus put on his spacesuit and checked his tools. The plan was simple. He would go across to the other ship and help whoever was inside. "Captain, I should go instead," said Sarah. "You're too important to risk." Marcus smiled at his engineer. "You're all important to me, but I'm the best at emergency rescues. You know that." As Marcus prepared to leave the Persistence, Tom called out from his station. "Captain, I'm picking up new signals. Big ones." Marcus hurried back to look at the screen. 3 large ships were moving toward them. The computer quickly identified them. "Vorthak raiders," Tom said, his voice tight with fear. The Vorthak ships were known throughout this part of space. They were fast, powerful, and cruel. They took prisoners to sell as slaves in distant markets. "How long until they reach us?" Marcus asked. 15 minutes, maybe less," Tom replied. Sarah grabbed his arm. "Captain, we have to leave now. We can't fight 3 Vorthak ships." Marcus looked back at the damaged Keltharian ship. The lights were getting weaker. Soon, whoever was inside would die. "Get ready to run," he told his crew. "But first, I'm getting whoever is in that ship." Marcus left the Persistence and flew across space to the damaged vessel. His suit's lights lit up the crystal surfaces as he found an airlock. The Keltharian ship's systems were strange, but his tools worked on the door. Inside, the air was thick and blue. Strange symbols glowed on the walls. Marcus followed the signs of life his scanner showed him toward the center of the ship. He found her in what looked like a garden made of crystal trees. She was trapped under a large piece of the ship's structure. Her skin was pale blue and seemed to glow with its own light. She was clearly noble by the fine clothes she wore and the jewels around her neck. When she saw Marcus, her large silver eyes went wide with surprise. She spoke in a musical language he did not understand. "I'm here to help," Marcus said slowly. He hoped she understood some human words. The crystal structure that trapped her was heavy. Marcus used his cutting tools to weaken it, then pushed with all his strength. Slowly, the debris moved enough for her to crawl out. She was hurt, but could walk. She pointed to herself and said something that sounded like Zarathis. Marcus pointed to himself and said, "Marcus." His radio crackled with Tom's voice. "Captain, the Vorthax are almost here. You have to come back now." Marcus looked at the Keltharian woman. Her ship was too damaged to fly. If they left her here, the Vorthax would capture her. He could not let that happen. "Come with me," he said, taking her hand. They moved quickly through the crystal ship toward the airlock. Behind them, Marcus could hear the sound of the ship's structure failing. More debris was falling. As they reached the airlock, the first Vorthax ship appeared around the asteroid. Marcus could see its dark hull and the red lights that meant weapons were ready to fire. "We're out of time," he whispered to himself. Marcus looked at the beautiful alien woman beside him. Her silver eyes showed trust, even though she barely knew him. He had made a choice to save her. Now he had to see it through, no matter what it cost. Marcus and the Keltharian woman reached his ship just as the Vorthax vessels surrounded them. The alien raiders were known for their cruelty. Their dark ships looked like giant insects with weapons instead of legs. "Captain, get inside quickly," Sarah shouted over the radio. "They're targeting us." Marcus helped the injured woman into the Persistence. Her glowing skin had grown dim, which he guessed meant she was in great pain. She moved slowly, but never complained. "James, get us out of here," Marcus ordered as soon as they were aboard. "I'm trying, Captain," James called back from the pilot's seat. "But they're too fast. Our old engines can't outrun them." The first Vorthax ship fired a warning shot that lit up space around them. Then a voice came over their radio. It spoke in broken human language with a harsh, angry tone. "Human ship, stop running. Give us the Crystal Princess. Do this, and we let you live." Marcus looked at the woman sitting beside him. She understood enough human words to know what the Vorthax wanted. Fear filled her silver eyes, but she spoke firmly in her musical language. "She says she won't let us die for her," Tom translated, checking his language computer. "She wants to go with them to save us." "That's not going to happen," Marcus said firmly. The second Vorthax ship moved to block their escape route. The third ship came from behind. The Persistence was trapped. Sarah ran checks on their weapons. "Captain, we have 2 small guns and maybe 20 shots. They have enough firepower to destroy a space station." Marcus studied the situation on his screens. The Vorthax ships were spread out to catch them if they tried to run, but they were also close to each other if something big exploded in the middle. An idea formed in his mind, a terrible final idea. "Tom, can you get a message to Keltharian space?" Marcus asked. "Maybe, if I boost the power and use a tight beam signal," Tom replied. "Do it. Send our location and tell them their princess is here." The Keltharian woman, Zarathis, seemed to understand. She spoke quickly in her own language, giving Tom words to send. The largest Vorthax ship came closer. Its captain spoke again. "You have 30 seconds, humans. Give us the princess or die." Marcus walked to the engine room where Sarah was working. "How fast can you make the reactor go critical?" he asked quietly. Sarah's face went white. "Captain, no. There has to be another way." "How fast?" Marcus repeated. 5 minutes for a full overload," she whispered. "But Captain, if you do that—" "I know." Marcus put his hand on her shoulder. "Get everyone to the escape pods. That's an order." "We won't leave you," James said. He had followed them to the engine room. "Yes, you will," Marcus said firmly. "Take the princess with you. Her people will find you if Tom got the message through." The Vorthax ships began moving closer. Marcus could see their boarding tubes getting ready to attach to the Persistence. "Captain, they're preparing to board us," Tom called out. Marcus went to the main computer and began typing in commands. "Sarah, help me set this up. Everyone else, get to the pods now." "I won't leave my captain," Sarah said, tears in her eyes. "You will, because I need you to take care of the others," Marcus told her. "And because someday you're going to captain your own ship. These people will need you." The first Vorthax boarding tube hit their hull with a loud clang. Marcus could hear the aliens cutting through the outer door. Princess Zarathis suddenly appeared beside him. She spoke in her musical language. then switched to broken human words. "No, you not die for me." "Yes, I will," Marcus said gently. "It's what humans do." Sarah finished setting up the reactor overload. "5 minutes, Captain. The signal will go to every pod so they know when to get clear." Marcus nodded. "Go. All of you, go now." His crew ran toward the escape pods. Sarah was crying. James looked back once, then helped Tom carry some of the emergency supplies. Princess Zarathis did not move. She stood looking at Marcus with her large silver eyes. She spoke again in her language, then in human words. "My people, remember, you. Tell them humans keep their promises," Marcus said. The Vorthax broke through the first door. Marcus could hear their heavy feet and harsh voices getting closer. He took the princess's hand and ran with her toward the last escape pod. The others had already launched. He could see them moving away from the persistence on his screen. At the pod, Princess Zarathis stopped. She would not get inside. "You come too," she said in her careful human words. Marcus shook his head. "Someone has to stay to make sure the reactor explodes at the right time. If I leave now, they might stop it." The Vorthax were in the main corridor now. Marcus could see their dark shapes moving through the ship. He gently pushed the princess into the pod. She fought against him, but she was injured and weak. As the pod door began to close, she pressed something into his hand. It was a small crystal that glowed with warm light. "Remember, me," she whispered. The pod doors sealed shut. Marcus hit the launch button and watched it fly away from the persistence. The other pods were already far away, moving toward a safe distance. The Vorthax found Marcus in the pod bay. They were tall, dark creatures with too many arms and cold yellow eyes. Their leader pointed a weapon at him. "Human, where is the princess?" the Vorthax demanded. Marcus smiled. "Gone. And you're about to be gone, too." He looked at his watch. 2 minutes left. The Vorthax leader grabbed Marcus by the shirt. "You will tell us where she went, or we will make you suffer for days." "I don't think you have days," Marcus said calmly. 1 minute left. More Vorthax came running into the pod bay. Their ship sensors had finally detected the overloading reactor. They were shouting at each other in their harsh language. 30 seconds. The Vorthax ran for their ships, but it was too late. Their boarding tubes were still attached. They could not get away fast enough. Marcus sat down on the floor and looked at the small crystal the princess had given him. It was warm in his hand and seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. 10 seconds. He thought about his crew safe in their pods. He thought about his home colony, where children played in the streets. He thought about the beautiful alien woman who would live because of his choice. 5 seconds. Marcus Chen closed his eyes and smiled. The persistence exploded in a ball of white light that could be seen from 3 star systems away. The explosion destroyed 2 Vorthax ships completely and crippled the third. The shockwave threw the escape pods further away, but they were far enough to survive. In her pod, Princess Zarathis felt the explosion like a punch to her heart. She pressed her hand against the window and watched the beautiful, terrible light fade away. She understood what the human had done. He had given his life for someone he did not even know, someone from a different species who most humans had never even met. In her language, there was a word for this kind of sacrifice, but she realized that no word could truly capture what she had just witnessed. The human captain had shown her something new about what courage could mean. As rescue ships from her people appeared in the distance, Princess Zarathis held the small crystal Marcus had given back to her. It had been her mother's once. Now it would remind her forever of the human who chose to die so she could live. The crystal pulsed with warm light, as if it had captured some of Marcus Chen's spirit inside it. Princess Zarathis floated in her escape pod for 3 days before her people found her. The rescue ships arrived like silver birds, their crystal hulls catching the light of distant stars. When they brought her aboard the flagship, she could barely speak. The ship's healers worked on her injuries while she told her story. She spoke of the human captain who had saved her life. She showed them the small crystal he had returned to her and the data device he had pressed into her hands before the explosion. The device contained Marcus Chen's personal logs and information about his crew. The princess listened to his final message over and over. His calm voice spoke of duty, sacrifice, and hope for peace between species. When they reached the Keltharian homeworld, Princess Zarathis was brought before her mother, Queen Empress Velandra. The Queen Empress was ancient and powerful. Her crystal body glowed with the wisdom of thousands of years. "Tell me everything," the Queen Empress commanded. Princess Zarathis spoke for hours. She described how Marcus had risked everything to save her, how he had died to give her a chance to escape, how his crew had followed his orders to protect someone they had never met. The Queen Empress listened in silence. When the story ended, she studied the data device that contained Marcus's memories and words. "This human died for you," she said finally. "By our laws, you owe him a life debt." "But mother, he is dead," Princess Zarathis said sadly. "How can I repay a debt to someone who no longer exists?" The Queen Empress stood and walked to the great window that looked out over their crystal city. For long minutes she said nothing. Then she turned back to her daughter. "There is an old law," she said slowly, "one that has not been used for 1,000 years. Keith Marajol, the claiming of the honored dead." Princess Zarathis gasped. She had heard of this law in the ancient stories. It was considered too dangerous, too costly to ever use. "Mother, the risk is mine to take," the Queen Empress said firmly. "Send ships to the explosion site. Have them collect every piece of matter they can find. Use the quantum collectors. We will need his energy signature." The Caltharian science ships worked for days at the site where the Persistence had exploded. They used their most advanced technology to find traces of Marcus Chen's quantum signature among the scattered atoms. It was difficult work. Human quantum patterns were different from Caltharian ones, but eventually the scientists found what they needed: tiny traces of consciousness and memory scattered across space, like invisible dust. Back on the homeworld, the Queen Empress ordered the preparation of a biosynthetic crystal matrix. This was technology her people had banned long ago because it was too close to playing with the forces of life and death. "Your Majesty," said the chief scientist, "this process has never been tried on a non-Caltharian. We do not know if it will work." "It will work," the Queen Empress said with certainty. "The human showed us that some things transcend species. His sacrifice has earned him this chance." The process took 7 days. The quantum traces of Marcus Chen were slowly gathered and fed into the crystal matrix. The matrix was grown from the purest crystals their world could provide, mixed with organic compounds that could support human consciousness. On the 7th day, something stirred within the crystal matrix. Marcus Chen opened his eyes. He was lying in a room that seemed to be made entirely of light and crystal. Everything around him glowed with soft blue and silver radiance. For a moment, he thought he might be dreaming. Then he tried to sit up and realized something was very wrong. His body felt different. When he looked at his hands, he saw they were still human in shape, but they seemed to be made of some kind of crystal material. He could see light flowing through them like blood through veins. "Do not be afraid," said a voice. Marcus turned to see a tall figure approaching. It was the alien woman he had saved, but she looked different now. More royal, more formal. She wore robes that sparkled with embedded crystals. "Princess Zarathis?" he asked. His voice sounded strange, still human, but with a musical quality he had never heard before. "You remember," she said, relief in her voice. "We were not sure if your memory would survive the transfer." "Transfer?" Marcus tried to stand. His legs worked, but everything felt different. Lighter, stronger. "What happened to me?" Princess Zarathis explained about the rescue, about the 3 days in the pod, about her mother's decision to invoke the ancient law. She told him about the quantum collection and the crystal matrix. "You died to save me," she said. "My people have brought you back to life so that I can repay my debt to you." Marcus looked around the beautiful room again. "So, I'm alive?" "In a way," the princess said carefully. "You are Marcus Chen. You have all your memories and thoughts, but your body is now part crystal, part biological. You exist between life and death." Before Marcus could ask more questions, the door opened and Queen Empress Velandra entered. She was the most impressive being Marcus had ever seen. Ancient wisdom and power seemed to flow from her like light from a star. "Marcus Chen of the human species," she said in perfect English. "I am Queen Empress Velandra. I have claimed your soul under the law of Kethmara Zol." Marcus felt he should bow or kneel, but he was not sure how to act around alien royalty. "Your Majesty," he said simply, "you saved my daughter at the cost of your life." The Queen Empress continued, "This created a debt that could not be left unpaid. You are now my Kethmara, a claimed soul bound to serve the crown." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. "Serve? You mean I'm a slave?" "Not a slave," the Queen Empress said firmly. "An honored guardian. You will have a position of respect in our society. But yes, you are bound to serve until the debt is satisfied." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. He had chosen to die to save the princess. That had been his choice, freely made. Now he was being told he had to serve as payment for his own sacrifice. "What if I refuse?" he asked. The Queen Empress studied him for a long moment. "Then you will cease to exist. The matrix that holds your consciousness requires the energy of a binding oath to maintain itself. Without it, you will simply fade away." Marcus realized he was trapped. He could serve the Keltharian crown or die again, this time forever. But as he looked at Princess Zarathus, he saw the guilt and sadness in her silver eyes. She had not wanted this. The debt was real in her culture, but she understood that it was unfair to him. "How long must I serve?" Marcus asked. "Until the debt is paid," the Queen Empress replied. "That could be years. It could be centuries. My people live much longer than humans." Marcus closed his crystal eyes and thought about his choices. He could be angry about the situation, or he could try to make the best of it. His human crew was safe. The princess was alive. Maybe there was still good he could do. "Then I will serve," he said finally, "but I want to understand your laws and customs. If I am to be your Kethmara, I will be a good one." The Queen Empress smiled for the first time since he had awakened. "I hoped you would say that. There is much you can learn, Marcus Chen, and much you can teach us." As the days passed, Marcus began to discover what his new form could do. He could interface directly with Keltharian technology. He could survive in vacuum and extreme temperatures. His mind worked faster and could process more information than before. But he also discovered that his human nature remained unchanged. He still thought like a human. He still believed in freedom and choice. And deep down, he still resented being bound by laws he had never agreed to follow. Princess Zarathus visited him often. She was learning about human culture and trying to understand the sacrifice he had made. Their conversations helped him stay connected to his humanity. "My mother means well," she said one day as they walked through the crystal gardens. "But our laws are old. They do not always account for the nature of other species." "I understand duty," Marcus replied, "but humans value freedom above almost everything else. It's hard for me to accept that I have no choice in my own fate." The princess was quiet for a moment. "Perhaps," she said carefully, "there are ways to interpret the law that my mother has not considered." Marcus looked at her with hope. "What do you mean?" "The debt must be paid," she said. "But perhaps we can find a way for you to pay it as a free being, rather than a bound one." It was the first hope Marcus had felt since awakening in his crystal body. Maybe there was a way to honor both Keltharian law and human values. Maybe he could find a path between service and freedom. But first, he had to prove himself worthy of such consideration. And that would require him to show the Keltharians what humans could truly accomplish when they chose to help others. 3 months after Marcus awakened in his crystal body, the Vorthok Empire declared war on the Keltharian sovereignty. The news came through the quantum communication networks like thunder across the galaxy. The Vorthok Emperor was angry about the loss of his raiding ships and the escape of Princess Zarathus. But more than that, he saw an opportunity. The Keltharians had always been powerful, but they were also few in number and set in their ways. They think their crystal cities and ancient wisdom make them untouchable, the Vorthok Emperor told his war council. "We will show them that brutality and numbers can defeat beauty and honor." The first Vorthok attacks came without warning. 12 worlds on the outer edge of Keltharian space simply went silent. When scout ships investigated, they found the planets stripped of resources and the populations taken as slaves. In the Crystal Palace, Queen Empress Velandra called her military commanders to an emergency meeting. Marcus was brought along as an observer, though he was not yet trusted with important decisions. "The Vorthoks are using new weapons," reported Admiral Kaith Val, the head of the Keltharian fleet. "Something that disrupts our crystal technology directly. Our shields fail, our weapons stop working, even our life support systems shut down. Princess Zarathus, now serving as a military commander, studied the battle reports on the holographic display. How is this possible? Our technology has protected us for thousands of years. It appears they have found a way to interfere with the quantum frequencies that power our systems. The Admiral explained. We are investigating, but so far we cannot find a defense. Marcus listened to the discussion and felt a growing frustration. The Keltharians were brilliant, but they approached every problem the same way they had for centuries. They needed to think differently. Your Majesty, Marcus said carefully, may I ask a question? The Queen Empress nodded. Speak, Kethmara. Have you considered that the Vorthax might be using corrupted versions of your own technology against you? The room fell silent. Several commanders looked offended that a newcomer would suggest such a thing. Admiral Kethval spoke coldly. Human, our technology is pure and protected. No other species has ever been able to duplicate or corrupt it. But what if they stole some of it during a previous conflict? Marcus asked. What if they've been studying it and found ways to turn it into weapons? Princess Zarathus looked thoughtful. There was the border incident 50 years ago. We lost a ship to Vorthak raiders. The crew was rescued, but the ship was destroyed. Destroyed or captured? Marcus pressed gently. The Queen Empress was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke to her intelligence officers. Research the loss of the ship Velthara 50 years ago. I want to know exactly what happened to it. Over the next week, Marcus worked with Keltharian scientists to understand their technology better. His hybrid nature allowed him to interface with their systems in ways no pure human could, but his human mind approached problems differently than theirs did. You think in straight lines, he told Dr. Shalvin, the chief scientist. Every solution follows logical steps from the problem, but humans think in circles, spirals, sometimes backwards. We find connections you might miss. Dr. Shalvin was fascinated by Marcus's different perspective. Show me what you mean. Marcus connected his consciousness to the laboratory's main computer. Information flowed through his mind like water through a river, but instead of following the data streams in order, he jumped between them randomly, looking for patterns. There, he said suddenly, the Vorthak weapons aren't copying your technology. They're using the harmonic frequencies that naturally disrupt it. That's impossible, Dr. Shalvin said. Those frequencies are theoretical. Not anymore, Marcus replied. Look at the battle data again. Every time their weapons hit your ships, the disruption follows a mathematical pattern. They've weaponized the one frequency that your crystals cannot handle. The discovery was both brilliant and terrible. The Vorthax had indeed salvaged the lost ship 50 years ago. They had spent decades studying its technology, not to copy it, but to find its weaknesses. With this knowledge, the Keltharians began developing countermeasures, but the work was slow, and the Vorthak advance continued. More worlds fell, more people were enslaved. Princess Zarathus asked Marcus to join her battle planning sessions. You think like our enemies, she told him. That makes you valuable. I think like a human, Marcus corrected. We're good at fighting dirty when we have to. Working together, they developed new tactics that surprised the Vorthak commanders. Instead of meeting them in direct battle, the Keltharian fleets began using hit-and-run attacks. They targeted supply lines and communication relays instead of military bases. This is not honorable warfare, complained Admiral Kethval. Honor doesn't matter if you lose, Marcus replied, and dead soldiers can't protect anyone. The new tactics worked. The Vorthak advance slowed, then stopped, but Marcus knew they were only buying time. The enemy had more ships and more soldiers. Eventually, numbers would tell. We need to end this war quickly, he told Princess Zarathus during one of their planning sessions. The longer it goes on, the more people will die on both sides. What do you suggest? She asked. Marcus was quiet for a moment. There's a way to win decisively, but it would require doing something your people might find distasteful. Tell me. The Vorthak Empire depends on slave labor from conquered worlds, Marcus explained. If those slaves were suddenly freed and armed, the empire would collapse from within. Princess Zarathus stared at him. You want us to start a slave rebellion? I want us to give people their freedom back, Marcus said. The Vorthax have taken millions of prisoners over the years. If even half of them fought back at the same time, it would be chaos, the princess said slowly. Millions would die in the fighting. Millions are already dying, Marcus pointed out. At least this way, they would be fighting for their freedom instead of just suffering in chains. The princess was troubled by the idea, but she brought it to her mother anyway. The Queen Empress listened to the plan in silence, then asked Marcus to explain his reasoning. "Your Majesty," Marcus said, "my people have a saying. The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots. Sometimes violence is the only way to end greater violence. And you believe this is such a time?" Marcus thought of all the worlds that had fallen, all the people who had been enslaved. "Yes, Your Majesty, I do." The Queen Empress was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "You are asking us to abandon our principles. We do not make war on civilians, even enemy civilians." "I'm asking you to give civilians the chance to make war on their oppressors," Marcus replied. "There's a difference." "Is there? Once we start this, we cannot control how it ends." Marcus nodded. "That's true, but sometimes you have to choose between a small evil and a great one. The Vorthax will not stop with your people. If they win here, they'll move on to other species, including mine." Princess Zarathis spoke up. "Mother, what if we offered the slaves sanctuary on our worlds after they fight for their freedom? We could help them build new lives." "That would mean taking in millions of refugees," the Queen Empress said. "Our resources are not unlimited." "Then we ask other species to help," Marcus suggested. "Unite the galaxy against the Vorthax. Show everyone that this is not just your war." The Queen Empress looked at Marcus with something that might have been respect. "You think far beyond your own situation, Kethmara. Even though you serve us unwillingly, you seek solutions that would protect all free peoples." "Freedom is not something you can hoard," Marcus said. "Either everyone is free, or no one really is." The decision was made. The Keltharians would attempt to coordinate a galaxy-wide slave uprising. It was a massive undertaking that would require careful timing and enormous risk. As they began planning the operation, Princess Zarathis asked Marcus a question that had been bothering her. "Do you regret saving me? If you had known it would lead to all this, would you have made the same choice?" Marcus thought about it seriously before answering. "If I had known about the resurrection and the binding, I might have hesitated, but I would have made the same choice in the end." "Why?" "Because the right choice doesn't change based on what happens to you afterward," Marcus said. "You needed help. I could provide it. That was enough." Princess Zarathis smiled sadly. "I understand why my mother finds you so valuable. You show us things about ourselves we had forgotten." "Such as?" "That sometimes the greatest honor comes not from following tradition, but from choosing to do what is right." As the preparations for the slave uprising continued, Marcus began to realize that this war would force him to make choices that would define not just his future, but the future of the entire galaxy. His human perspective was changing the Keltharians, but their ways were changing him as well. The question was whether he could find a balance between human values and alien duties, between freedom and service, between the individual and the greater good. The slave uprising began on 47 worlds at exactly the same moment. Across the Vorthok Empire, millions of prisoners broke their chains and turned against their captors. The rebellion was more successful than anyone had dared hope. But the Vorthok Emperor had one final desperate plan. If he could not keep his empire, he would make sure no one else could rule the galaxy either. "They want to destroy the Nexus Point," Admiral Kethval reported during an emergency meeting. "Our spies confirm they are moving their entire remaining fleet toward the dimensional intersection." Marcus felt his crystal heart grow cold. The Nexus Point was what made faster-than-light travel possible in this part of the galaxy. It was a natural phenomenon that connected different regions of space through dimensional tunnels. If it were destroyed, every star system would be cut off from the others. "How many ships do they have left?" Princess Zarathis asked. "Nearly 300, the Admiral replied. "More than our entire fleet." Queen Empress Velandra studied the tactical display. "If they destroy the Nexus Point, it will take centuries for technology to develop enough to reconnect the scattered worlds. Billions will die in isolation." Marcus connected his consciousness to the strategic computers and ran through thousands of battle scenarios. In every simulation, the Keltharian fleet was outnumbered and defeated before they could stop the Vorthax. "There might be another way," Marcus said slowly. Everyone turned to look at him. He had been quiet during most of the meeting, processing information and possibilities. The Nexus Point isn't just a travel hub, Marcus continued. It's also a massive energy source. If someone could take control of it directly, they could use that energy to shut down every Vorthok ship in the area. Dr. Shalvin frowned. The control systems are too complex for any single mind to operate. Even our best pilots can only interface with them for minutes at a time. What about a hybrid mind? Marcus asked. Someone who thinks like both a human and a Keltharian? The room went silent as everyone realized what Marcus was suggesting. Princess Zarathis spoke first. The process would be irreversible. Whoever merged with the Nexus Point would become part of it permanently. They would lose their individual identity. Not necessarily, Marcus said. A human mind is more adaptable than a pure Keltharian one. I might be able to maintain my consciousness while interfacing with the system. Queen Empress Velandra looked at Marcus with an expression he could not read. You are offering to sacrifice yourself again, but this time there would be no resurrection. I'm offering to do what needs to be done, Marcus corrected, and this time it would be my choice, not because of debt or duty, but because I choose to help. The Queen Empress was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. Kethmara, I release you from your binding oath. You are free to leave our service. Marcus felt something break loose inside his crystal chest. The compulsion that had driven him to serve was suddenly gone. For the first time since his resurrection, he was truly free to choose his own path. Thank you, he said simply. So, what is your choice? The Queen Empress asked. Marcus looked around the room at the faces staring at him. These people had become his friends, even his family. Princess Zarathis had spent countless hours helping him understand their culture. Dr. Shalvin had taught him to appreciate the beauty of their technology. Even Admiral Kethval had come to respect his strategic mind. I choose to help, Marcus said. Not as your Kethmara, but as a friend. The journey to the Nexus Point took 2 days. The combined Keltharian fleet moved as fast as they could, but they arrived to find the Vorthak armada already in position around the massive dimensional gateway. The Nexus Point looked like a giant crystal flower floating in space. Energy streams flowed between its petals, creating tunnels to distant star systems. At its center was the control station, a sphere of pure crystal that pulsed with incredible power. The Vorthaks are setting up some kind of explosive device, reported the fleet's sensors operator. It looks like they plan to destabilize the dimensional matrix. Princess Zarathis, commanding the lead ship, opened a channel to Marcus. Are you sure about this? Marcus was in a specially modified fighter craft that could reach the control station faster than any large ship. I'm sure. Just give me enough time to reach the center. Marcus, the princess said quietly, I want you to know that saving me was the greatest honor anyone has ever given me. I will never forget what you chose to do. Take care of your people, Marcus replied, and maybe someday take care of mine too. The battle began as the Keltharian fleet engaged the Vorthak ships. Energy beams lit up space like deadly fireworks. The Vorthaks had more ships, but the Keltharians fought with the desperation of people defending their entire civilization. Marcus flew his small craft through the chaos, dodging weapons, fire, and debris. Several Vorthak fighters pursued him, but he used the energy streams around the Nexus Point to lose them in the dimensional currents. As he approached the control station, Marcus could feel the incredible power flowing through the structure. It was like standing next to a star, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. He docked his craft and made his way to the central control chamber. The room was filled with crystal formations that hummed with energy. In the center was the interface throne, a chair-like structure that would allow him to connect directly with the Nexus Point systems. Marcus sat down and placed his hands on the crystal controls. Immediately, his consciousness was flooded with information. He could see every ship in the surrounding space, feel every energy flow, sense every dimensional tunnel. But the system was fighting him. It was designed for Keltharian minds, not human ones. The connection was unstable and painful. Through the tactical displays, Marcus could see that the Vorthak explosive device was almost ready. In minutes, it would destabilize the entire Nexus Point and destroy faster-than-light travel throughout the galaxy. He had to act quickly. Marcus stopped fighting the system and instead embraced it completely. He opened his mind to the full power of the Nexus Point, letting its energy flow through every part of his consciousness. The pain was incredible, but so was the power. Suddenly, Marcus could control every energy stream, every dimensional tunnel, every particle of matter within light years of the Nexus Point. He reached out with his new abilities and shut down every Vorthak ship simultaneously. Their weapons went dead. Their engines stopped. Their life support systems failed. The Vorthak fleet drifted helplessly in space, their crews trapped in dark ships with no power. But Marcus realized he had made a terrible mistake. The power of the Nexus Point was too much for any single mind to contain. He could feel his individual identity beginning to dissolve into the vast energy matrix. "Marcus," Princess Zarathis's voice came through the communication system. "The Vorthaks are surrendering. You did it." Marcus tried to respond, but his voice was already changing, becoming something more than human speech. "I can't. Hold on." "Fight it," the princess urged. "Don't let it take you." But Marcus realized he didn't want to fight it. As his consciousness expanded to encompass the entire Nexus Point, he could see the bigger picture. The galaxy needed a guardian for this place, someone who could protect the dimensional tunnels and ensure that no one ever again tried to destroy the connections between worlds. "Tell my crew," Marcus managed to say before his voice became pure energy. "Tell them their captain chose well." Marcus Chen's individual consciousness faded, but his essence became part of something greater. He was no longer one man, but a living part of the Nexus Point itself. He could think and feel and make decisions, but he existed on a scale beyond normal life. The war ended that day. The surviving Vorthaks agreed to release all their slaves and abandon their empire. Many worlds that had suffered under their rule joined together to form a new alliance dedicated to freedom and mutual protection. Princess Zarathis became queen after her mother chose to step down and spend her remaining years in contemplation. One of her first acts was to establish the Marcus Chen Memorial Academy, where beings from all species could learn about cooperation, sacrifice, and the value of individual choice. The academy was built on a station orbiting the Nexus Point. Students could feel Marcus's presence in the dimensional currents and energy flows around them. He could not speak to them directly, but sometimes they would receive insights or guidance that seemed to come from the station itself. Years later, when Marcus's surviving crew members came to visit the memorial, they found a message waiting for them in the station's computers. It was in Marcus's handwriting, though it had appeared long after his transformation. "Sarah, James, Tom," the message read, "I want you to know that I am still here, in a way. I watch over the pathways between stars and make sure people can travel safely. I remember our time together on the Persistence, and I remember why I chose to help a stranger who needed saving. The galaxy is full of people who need help. Sometimes you have to risk everything to give them a chance. Sometimes you have to give up your freedom to protect someone else's. These are not easy choices, but they are the ones that make us truly human. Take care of each other. Take care of the dream of a galaxy where all beings can live free. And remember that sometimes the best way to save the thing you love most is to let it go. Your captain always, Marcus." The message was signed with a small crystal symbol, the same design that Princess Zarathis had given him on the day he saved her life. To this day, travelers through the Nexus Point sometimes report seeing a figure in the energy streams, a man made of light and crystal, watching over their passage and ensuring their safe journey to distant stars. They say he never speaks, but his presence reminds them that somewhere in the vast darkness between worlds, someone is always standing guard, keeping the pathways open and the connections strong. Marcus Chen chose to save a stranger, and in doing so, he saved the galaxy. But more than that, he proved that the greatest power in the universe is not technology or weapons or ancient laws. It is the simple human ability to choose to help, no matter the cost.